So here are places that people have gone. The Arias Foundation is one of our oldest partners, and this is a really great placement if you are interested in working, obviously, on these issues, but also sort of at a more executive level. So if you're interested in the way that an NGO is run, in this fellowship, you get to not just meet the president of Costa Rica, who's there next to our fellow Nathan, but you get to work with his, I think it's his nephew, who's the director of the organization, and you do a whole bunch of things there, from writing speeches for him to organizing Central America-wide events. We once had a fellow who organized an event at the UN, so there's like a lot of stuff like that that you do, as well as working on briefs with him. But it's not, if you want to be out in the field, this is not a placement for that. This is definitely more office focused, but at a pretty high level, so it's pretty cool. This, polar opposite, the Amazon Conservation Association. You're definitely doing some really hands-on work. This is Erin here dissecting a tapir out in the field. There was sort of, population was dying off, and so she was part of a team that was trying to figure out what was killing them. Edward is there in the middle with Bird, and there's Erin with a machete on a rickety old dock. So it's definitely a very, very hands-on experience. But very cool. But you have to be, you know, usually EEB people go out and do this, and they're interested in that kind of work. Metis Gaia and Red MAK, well, it's what it says it is. If you work on the Metis Gaia side, it's a lot more like consulting, and on the Red MAK, which is the NGO Metis Gaia, it's a lot more hands-on and educational. So, but it's a really terrific organization. So these are some of the partners we're going to have. Again, like I said, things get added on all the time. So this is, I mean, these are definitely partners we're going to work with, but they're not the be-all or the final thing. So I think you guys all know where the office is. You have my email, so please get in touch if you have any questions. And these are just some pictures. This is Nathan, who was played football. I don't know if he played at Georgetown, but anyway, he decided to teach these guys how to play American football. So that was something he did. And Caitlin Schoenfelder on the far side was working with Convivencia in, or IMLE as it's called now, in rural Mexico. And this is definitely a really great placement. It sometimes requires a more rugged mindset, because you could be like dropped off by bus somewhere in the middle of nowhere and like hike in with the other teachers, and you know, you're there with like Nahuatl people for a while. Again, helpful to be speaking a lot of Spanish there. So a lot of fun, but definitely challenging. Let's see what else we have. Yeah. So here's Mayan and Janine. These are like PiLA success stories for those who want to stay on in Latin America. Mayan was at Endeavor Puerto Varas, and then she got a job working for Endeavor in Buenos Aires, and then she went back to Chile, and now she works for an Endeavor entrepreneur, I think, who has like a smoked salmon business, and so that's what she does. And Janine was at Fuente in Guatemala for a year, and then was in Endeavor's in the Patagonia office's education wing. So she worked there for 2 years as a full-time employee, and now she's at HBS doing like a nonprofit MBA. And Lara was in Peru. This is, if you're really interested, if you think you might want to go to med school, this is a great kind of hands-on public health placement. A lot of what the fellows do there is coordinating between the volunteers who come from Pro World Peru is one of the partners of Bridgier here at Princeton. So I don't know. No, you guys are not. You wouldn't have done Bridgier, right? That's the next, the juniors. Okay. Anyway, so forget that example. But anyway, so the PiLA fellow acts as a liaison between between Pro World Peru, the volunteers, and the Incan community leaders. So here she's in this like triage line, and these are people living way in high altitude villages who don't really get any medical care. So Pro Peru brings in medical care, because basically what happens is, you know, someone gets a cold, it turns into infection, it turns into pneumonia, and they die, because there was nowhere to go to just like treat them for the cold or give them antibiotics for the resulting whatever. So Pro Peru is trying to get in there and sort of stop those things before they happen. And they also do clean burning stoves, and they do water filters, and sort of a whole bunch of different health projects. So why do PiLA? Because it's awesome. That's why. Because getting a job in Latin America on your own is very difficult, and this is a great way to go in and do something for a year and really get your hands dirty, as it were, for just sort of service work firsthand. I think that most of our fellows have a lot of fun doing this. There's a lot of challenges, there's no doubt about that, but it's a really terrific opportunity. I think that's it. Okay, so why don't we start with the questions in the room, and then we'll move to the questions on Skype, if that's okay with people. So, yeah.
Just a quick question about the process. I guess what portion of applicants get interviews? Are the big cuts?
I think last year about a third of the applicants got interviews. So we interviewed, or maybe a little more than that, we interviewed about 100 people out of the 290. And actually that brings me to something that I don't know why I didn't talk about what I meant to and then forgot. So basically the process works like we interview people, we take a certain group to be finalists, and then that's the point where I work with all the finalists to figure out which organizations you're most interested in. You write a cover letter, I send it off with your resume to say 2 or 3 organizations, and then they do an interview of all those candidates, and they might get, Endeavor will get like 14 candidates because they have 8 places, but a smaller organization will get maybe like 4 or 5, and then they make the final decision. So we try to do a good match between, so that everybody's happy, the partners and the fellows both.
How quickly do you have to make your decision if you get an offer? Do you like decide right away?
3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem. Anything else? Yeah.
Sorry, just to clarify, so from the get-go, you don't say like, I want to work at Endeavor?
No, you don't. No. I mean, if you really, really want to work at Endeavor, you can mention it, but don't make that like the bulk of your essay. Yeah. Definitely don't do that. And since you're here, I'll just say don't do that. It makes the fellowship committee annoyed. They're like, okay, we get that everyone likes Endeavor, that's nice, but show us you're flexible, show us you have, an interest. And we get a lot of people, not a lot, but every year we have a few people who are like, I want to go to Endeavor in Buenos Aires. And like, don't apply for anything else. They show no interest in anything or willingness to be flexible or anything like that. So don't be that. Yeah.
You mentioned that one of the ladies actually gotten like a career down. She stayed in Chile, I believe you said. Can you just like talk about like, does that happen often? Like if someone were to like want to pursue a career in Latin America, this is obviously opens a lot of doors. But could you just maybe talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So. Every year we have a few fellows who stay, either they stay as a full-time employee or sometimes they'll stay as a second-year fellow even though the organization is taking another first-year fellow. We don't, it's not, I mean, we're small. We're not like PiLA where we can have 150 people and of that group 50 are second-year fellows or something. I don't remember exactly what the number is. Something like that. But yeah, it's a possibility for sure. I think that for whatever reason, a lot of people in Chile end up staying there. We've had quite a number of them. In fact, actually, this one guy from 2010, maybe? I can't remember. Anyway, so he was a PiLA for a year, and this is maybe his 2nd or 3rd year working for Endeavor in their Santiago office, and like that's what he's doing. He's applying to business school now, but he wants to keep working in Latin America. I mean, he would go to Chilean business school if he could, but he's discovered that that doesn't translate to any other country. So he's going to go back to the US and do it. But anyway, like, yeah, it's a possibility. It's not something we can guarantee.